welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're going to break down a term you've probably heard a lot, but that can feel, well, incredibly confusing. Industry 4.0. We're going to cut through all the hype and get to what it really means for manufacturing. Okay, so here's our game plan. We'll start by tackling the confusion head-on. Then we'll trace its history to see how we got here. We'll map out the grand vision of a smart factory, find a practical starting point for any factory, and finally, we'll reframe how we should all be thinking about the investment.
First things first, let's clear up what we're even talking about, because if you've ever felt a little lost when this term comes up, you're in good company.
A lot of people find the term vague because, let's be honest, it often is. It seems like everyone has their own spin on it, and that just leads to a ton of confusion. This quote right here just nails it, doesn't it? The core of the problem is that experts often define Industry 4.0 by whatever product they happen to be selling, whether that's ERP software, robots, or an MES system.
So here's the most important thing to remember. Think of Industry 4.0 as a high-level goal, a strategic vision, a direction to move in. It's not a single product you can just go out and buy.
All right, let's move on to the history to see how this all builds up. To really understand the why behind Industry 4.0, we kind of need to look back at the first three industrial revolutions.
I mean, think about these massive leaps forward. We went from steam power replacing muscle, to electric power giving us assembly lines, then to automation with early computers. Each step was a total game changer.
And for over 200 years, the entire focus of manufacturing was really on one single thing. How can we use the smallest driver to create the biggest possible output?
And this slide right here perfectly illustrates the huge shift we're seeing now. We are moving from the old goal of mass production, making millions of identical items, to a brand new goal, mass customization. The challenge now is making items that are unique to each customer, but doing it at scale.
So what does this whole mass customization idea actually look like in the real world? How does a factory even begin to pull that off?
Okay, let's make this real. Imagine you're ordering a new car online. You're getting to specify everything, from a fancy walnut steering wheel all the way down to the specific alloy rims you want.
Now the key here is that your order doesn't just sit in a queue. It kicks off a live, real-time, data-driven process. That order is zapped to headquarters. Systems automatically check inventory and ping the supply chain. Then, smart scheduling software creates the most efficient plan possible to build your specific car. And only then is the final plan sent to the factory floor system for execution.
This is a super common misconception, and it's one we really need to clear up. A lot of people think the MES, the Manufacturing Execution System, is the central intelligence.
But here's the thing, the MES isn't the brain. It's the executor. It's a follower, not a leader. Think of it as the last step in a long chain of digital commands.
So the MES is a powerful tool for execution and keeping records, for sure. But you have to remember that all the intelligent planning happens in other systems before the order ever even hits the factory floor.
Now that blueprint sounds absolutely incredible, right? But it was designed for giant German manufacturers with massive budgets. So what about everyone else?
Okay, let's ground this in reality for a second. Chasing that full top-to-bottom vision might not be the right move for your business, especially if you're a small or medium-sized enterprise. My advice? Shift your perspective. Move away from the buzzword and instead focus on tangible, high-impact improvements that will actually make a difference.
Don't aim for Industry 4.0. Aim for a smarter, more transparent, and more reliable factory. That is where the real value is hiding. Aim for things you can actually measure and see.
But even these really practical steps require an investment. And that brings us to the final and I think most critical point, how we measure the return on that investment. Because simply comparing a robot's cost to an employee's salary, well, that's a recipe for failure. It just doesn't work in this new world.
And this slide right here brilliantly illustrates the bigger picture. The value isn't just in cutting costs, it's in building a more resilient, high-quality, and modern business. It's the whole package. The big takeaway here is that automation brings so many other benefits, sometimes intangible ones, that a simple cost analysis is always going to miss.
And that's really the question to consider. It's not just about efficiency today, it's about building the foundation for the future. So what is the true value of intelligence in your factory? Thanks for joining us on The Explainer.